Council meeting, all alderpersons are present in the chambers. Our first item is roll call, as all alderpersons are present. Our first item of business, I was told that we will not be having honor guard tonight, so we will move on to the Pledge of Allegiance and silent prayer in lieu of invocation. All right, the next item is administration of police department ceremonial oaths of office, badge pinning, and awards. Chief Blevins and Deputy Chief Kuzkowski. So we have Nicholas Brockman, Stefan J., Robert Kreml, and Gunnar Drew. You want...
Okay, please raise your right hands and repeat after me. We're going to start with saying the word I and stating your name. So you want to start down here? Will it reach? So, okay. You want to come up to the microphone and say I and state your name?
I, Robert Cromwell.
I, Nicholas Brockman.
I, Stefan J.
I, Gunnar Drew.
Okay, repeat after me all together. Having been duly selected to serve as an officer of the police department for the city of Wisconsin Rapids, do hereby solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Wisconsin, and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me God. Congratulations. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Bradley S. Burris,
I, Bradley S. Burris,
having been duly selected
having been duly selected
to serve as lieutenant
to serve as lieutenant
of the police department
of the police department
for the city of Wisconsin Rapids,
for the city of Wisconsin Rapids,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Wisconsin,
and of the state of
and
Wisconsin,
will faithfully discharge
and will faithfully discharge
the duties of said said office
the duties of said office
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
So, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Ross Radke,
I, Ross Radke,
having been duly selected
having been duly selected
to serve as sergeant
to serve as sergeant
of the police department
of the police department
for the city of Wisconsin Rapids,
for the city of Wisconsin Rapids,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Wisconsin,
and of the state of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge
and will faithfully discharge
the duties of said office
the duties of said office
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations, Sergeant.
Thank you.
Down a little bit. Raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Eric Dobbin,
I, Eric Dobbin,
having been duly selected
having been duly selected
to serve as detective
to serve as detective
of the police department
of the police department
for the city of Wisconsin Rapids,
for the city of Wisconsin Rapids,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Wisconsin,
and of the state of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge
and will faithfully discharge
the duties of said office
the duties of said office
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations, Detective.
Last but not least, we have a couple of awards we'd like to hand out, and then we'll give you back your meeting. Let me call up Officer Nicholas Brockman. All last year, we had, of course, the COVID emergency, so we weren't able to properly recognize some of our people for the good things they've done. Know that this counts for all the guys that are getting awards, that day in, day out, these guys go out and do their jobs like they're supposed to, but every now and then something happens that's a little bit above, the board. So we like to recognize those things. So Officer Brockman, on May 13th of 2020, administered Narcan and performed CPR on a person who experienced a drug overdose, bringing that person back to life. You saved a life that day, and for that, we're going to honor you with this life-saving award. I'd like to call up Sergeant Ross Radke. Sergeant Radke happens to have been known as quite a good football player back in the day. So he put those skills to the test not too long ago. On February 7th of 2021, he caught a 6-year-old girl that was tossed from a second-story deck by a disturbed person, saving the girl's life. It was quite the catch. Good job. We're going to honor you with this life-saving award. And Officer Jacob Guzzi. So we brought you up last because Officer Guzzi actually saved 2 lives in 2 days. 2 suicidal subjects on the bridge On February 27th, one person attempted to jump off the bridge, and with the help of a citizen, Officer Guzzi was able to wrestle the subject off the bridge railing and effectively save his life. The very next day, he talked to a distraught juvenile who was attempting to jump off the ledge and save that person's life too, 2 in 2 days. Congratulations. For that, we give you 1 award. Thank you. Anyone who's here for the reception for the office downstairs, hop up and put up now.
Does that include us? I'm sure there's cake involved. All right. Sorry, Phil, they were not here to hear your presentation on bonding. All right, let's move on to item number 6, is the reading of the minutes of the previous meeting held on May 18th. Attachment 1 in your packet. What are your wishes?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion by Bemke.
Second. Oh, hang on.
Each button, thank
I
you.
know.
There you go. Seconded by, so we're going to say Evanson, not Evanson, it's Evanson. The last meeting confused me because I know it's Evanson. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Can't be a tie. Well, it could be. That motion carried 8 ayes, 0 nays. Item number 7 is consider mayor's appointment to library board, which you see attached. One's a reappointment, one chose not to seek reappointment, and one lives out of the community now.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Austin. Seconded by Mr. Zacher. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. That motion carried, 8 ayes, 0 nays. Sorry about that, I had a question. Our next item is consider and approve a procedure for the appointment to fill the vacancy due to a resignation effective July 19, 2021 by District 7 Alderperson Thaddeus Kubitschek. I guess, Michelle, do we want to talk about the options or maybe start that way.
So, because of the resignation or the pending resignation, you have a couple of options. You could leave it vacant until the normal election for that position, which would be almost 2 years from now, which probably isn't advised. You could fill the vacancy until you have a special election, which probably would make the most sense to be this coming spring of 2022. Or you could fill the vacancy and have it be until the current term ends, which would be 2023. So that's, basically, if you do fill it, those are the three options. The procedure for filling, I believe the last time that this occurred, although it was a temporary vacancy, or maybe it was for a more permanent vacancy, what you did was at the meeting that the resignation was announced, you let the public know that you would be taking resumes or letters of interest to the clerk's office, and then at the next meeting, which would be the July meeting, you would then choose the person to fill the vacancy. And then at that point, you could decide how long that person might fill the vacancy, whether it be for the remainder of the term or until a special election or until the next spring. So you have some things to work through in terms of how you want to do it, and then like what the effect of how long that temporary vacancy will be filled until there's an election.
Mr. Catna.
Thank you. So being that this is a odd district, we're just about 2 months into a full 2-year term. I don't think we should wait 10 months to have a special election, and I don't think we should put someone in the place and then make them run again next spring. I think we should have the public vote and fill this position as soon as possible. I know it's not ideal to run a special election for one alderperson seat, but wherever we could fit that in as soon as possible, in my opinion, would be appropriate, just because it's so far away till spring, and it's at the beginning of this district term. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Mr. Rayom.
Thank you, and I guess I'd echo some of those thoughts that Jake just had. We got 22 months to go about on the term, and I, just having found out in the last few days of the upcoming vacancy that going to take place in a few weeks. I would tend to lean towards that we'd have a special election at the nearest opportune time, whatever the law provides for, that we have to provide for notice in that to do, which would probably take us, I suppose, into the early fall, and that we'd have a special election for that.
Ms. Stevenson.
I agree with you guys, but Jennifer, there are no scheduled elections for the rest of this year. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So the cost, I'm not putting you on the spot, but we know what election costs could be. If the council is in favor of that, I'd like to see what the figures would be to hold the special election. Because
Okay.
you're talking here, county, what the cost would be. Depending on that, otherwise I would wait until spring because there are scheduled elections next spring. Appoint until then, and then either fill the term then or have the election for them then. But I think the cost is going to be too great to hold a special election for this year. Thank you.
Mr. Veneman.
Attorney Schill, is there a specific time frame that we need? I know it said early fall. Is there a specific time that we have to allow for that?
Right, I think probably between the time that you give notice and the time that the election can be is going to be at least, going to be between 60 and 90 days from that time. Because they have to go through the whole, pretty much, the seeking nomination papers, filling out nomination papers, getting the nomination papers in. There could be a primary, possibly, if you have more than, I guess that would be up to you to determine. Right now, your rules say that if you have 3 or more, then you're going to automatically have a primary. So that's kind of dependent on that also. But I guess what we could do, you're looking at least 3 months from now. One alternative could be the primary date in 2022, which there could be primaries, right?
There could be it would
So that
be
would
the
be February then.
third Tuesday in February.
Would be a possible, really the next date that you're probably going to have a regular election to coincide. But otherwise, you're looking at September probably at the earliest. And there are no fall elections, general elections this year, so.
Mr. Bemke.
So Attorney Schill, could you explain again what the process was the last time for submitting, anyone interested to submit to the clerk's office? And could I make that a motion?
Sure, you could. At the meeting that you discussed the original, or discussed the vacancy, you basically, someone made a motion to have interested persons in District 7 or whatever district to send letters of interest to the clerk, and then at the next meeting, which would be July, is when you would then choose, and you encouraged, I believe, the persons to attend in person at that meeting in case if they wanted to speak. And then at that next meeting was when you chose the person to fill the vacancy. And as I said, that'll either you can decide tonight, which, we don't really have all the information in terms of if you want a special election, but, that might impact your candidate pool of how long that might be, but you wouldn't have to decide, when the special election was or if you were going to have a special election tonight. It'd be nice for the people to know that, but I guess by, I think you're probably looking at a shorter time frame in terms of their term. But for sure by July, then we would, when you make the motion to appoint the person, you're going to have to, and we can have the exact information on if you wanted to do a special election soon, what those dates would be, and then you could choose at that point how long the person will be in that position before the election or the special election, I should say.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to anyone interested for the vacancy in District 7 to submit their information to the clerk by July, what's the next council meeting?
July 20th. So probably you would get materials out the week before, so.
July 9th? Okay. Anyone interested to have their information into the clerk's office by Friday, July 9th?
So we have a motion by Bemke and a second by Veneman. Mr. Katna.
Thank you. So this would be the process we went through, well, I think it was a couple of years ago, we replaced someone. But we're just going to, as a council, replace the spot. And I'm not for this, and I'll tell you, I don't think we can speak for the folks in District 7. And this isn't just a fill-in for a short amount of time. I mean, we're 2 months into the term. It's a 2-year term. I understand the special election isn't convenient and it may cost money, but that's what our job is as government, is to let the citizens of District 7 decide that. So I'm for a special election. I think that should be the practice, especially with this far out to go yet in this term.
Ms. Stevenson.
So let me get this straight. So we could post the position, have the required paperwork in the week before council next month, and at that meeting, we could decide if we are going to have them fill the term until the next election, which would probably be February, or we could decide to hold the special election then. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I guess maybe I misspoke in that I presumed that there would be an appointment and it was just a matter of how long. But it's true, you could just not make any appointment until you had a special election. The office would remain vacant until that time. And I don't know if that's what Alderperson Catna is advocating for, but that is an option not to do anything. But yes, that's correct, that what Mr. Bemke's motion would be that you would appoint someone in July, and then also in July, you would decide, and I assume we would get the numbers on what the special election would cost. I could get the exact dates if you gave notice that day of when the election could be, and then you're going to decide how long that person is going to be in that role until there's an election. So, yeah, that can all be deferred till July.
Okay, so with Mr. Bemke's motion to have candidates submit documentation, do we need to further say that we are going to decide in the July meeting in his motion? Does he need to add that?
I don't believe you need to, but I think since maybe there might be some confusion over that, of what that means, that I think it would be beneficial to add that, yes.
Thank you.
So do you want me to add that, Sue?
Yeah, I guess to be clear that then you're going to consider, you haven't necessarily appointed them for the term. It would make it clear that you are going to defer that decision until July also.
All right. I will add to my motion then that the decision on the length and how the term is going to be filled will be decided at the July council meeting.
Good with that, Dean?
I'll continue with my second.
Thank you. Mr. Rayom?
I just had a question if it was for the length of the term. Jay, if your motion was, I missed that, if it was till next spring or what, so that's all I had. Question.
The intent of the motion is we can decide in July. I just don't think this position should go unrepresented. I think we should have a representative in that district. We can decide when the election's going to be and how we're going to fill it after that. Thank you.
Mr. Catna?
So just to clarify, the motion would be to fill the position and start the special election process right now, or we're delaying that to July, because I don't see a reason to delay it another month if we're going to do a special election. But
Well, the motion is to defer that until July, that decision until July.
okay. So I'll be voting in the negative on this just because I feel this is a perfect opportunity right here. We can hold the start the process to hold a special election and let the people from District 7 decide on who the representation is for the next 2 years. I understand we can appoint someone but we're just kicking it down the road a month. I'd like to see a special election. That's where I stand on it.
Any further discussion? I do have an email from Mr. Stack who's interested. I'll forward to Jennifer. Seeing no further discussion, please cast your ballots. Everybody understand the motion? That motion carried 6 ayes, 2 nays. Mr. Kubitschek, if you can meet me up front. Dad, we have an appreciation for your years of service as an alderman with the city of Wisconsin Rapids, and you can take this to warmer climate and hang it on your office wall. Thank you. All right. Do you have any words of wisdom you want to state that, or?
It's been a pleasure serving for all the people in District 7 as well as everybody in the whole city and all the past council members, current council members, staff, everybody. And I guess for clarification, I have been offered a job with a colleague that I went to college with, and we've been in touch for 20 years. Nothing really ever came about, but I've got an opportunity to collaborate with this person now. And I don't, at the age of 41, I don't really know how many more opportunities I have. So I took the opportunity. I'm going to still be in the same time zone, but I'm going to be 1,200 miles away. So it's a case where I'm not in a position of being able to continue to serve. So I'm sure that the council is going to continue moving forward with who they choose for this, but it's just been an absolute pleasure. So thank you for that opportunity, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 9 is review and consider for approval an updated cost estimate for the Fire Station 1 renovation. It's item 10 from the Finance and Property Committee meeting held on June 1st. And that's also, you can see a Finance and Property attachment number 1. I guess who are we starting with? Is it? How about the fire chief? Or?
So at the Finance Committee meeting, we reviewed the schematic design, the final schematic design, and with that came a cost estimate from Myron, which was significantly more than what we had projected in the initial planning stages. It was $496,000 over budget from what we had originally planned. In August of 2020 or September of 2020, council agreed to move forward. There was no guarantee on it, but we had $2,341,577 for the Station 1 renovation and addition, which also included Station 2 changing that locker-style bathroom into 2 separate gender equity bathrooms. What I proposed at the finance meeting earlier this month was, at this time, hold off on that bathroom remodel project at Station 2, and if needed, take that money and apply it to the overage at Station 1, which would leave us short $358,000 from that original $2.3 million. At that meeting, we were asked to get a summary review of what was driving the overage. And I think I sent that out to all the aldermen, and what we talked about at the finance meeting was what drove the cost, additional square footage, material cost, and our internal or soft cost. So in there, when this project moves forward, if we approve it tonight, I have Robert, I'm not going to say his last name, Kay, and David Keaton from Myron. They'll talk about the process or if you have any more questions. But in the bid, when the final bids come out, talking with Robbie, we would like to have the Station 2 renovation included in there. And if the final bids come in where we're under the 2.7 million and we were able to fund Station 2, at that time we'd be able to move forward with the bathrooms at Station 2 as long as we stay under that 2.7 million that we had requested to fund Station 1. We talked about there is a significant or a 5% contingency fund. We also have some sprinklers that, looking at the fire codes, which Todd Eckes and I do quite a bit, we're not quite certain why we need to sprinkle all the attic space, and we could put up a firewall. And we have some unsuitable soil money that we're hoping that could cover Station 2 and we could get that done to begin with. Or at the same time, so we would never have to come back and ask for that to be done. The other thing that reflecting on that meeting that I want to talk about a real quick hit on is I kept talking about 30, 40 years, the life expectancy of this building. And that's not accurate. In 30 to 40 years, this building will be standing. If the city doesn't grow, if our services don't grow, which I don't see how what we provided the community we can do anymore, that station will last. It's not going to be 30 to 40 years, and we need to replace the station. So I think I would like to get that clarified, that the station could last 70, 80 years. And the other thing to clarify is, we tried to prioritize, trying to be fiscally responsible. I believe Station 2 is needed. Right now, it would work. We did, when we got our first female firefighter, we did frame in those locker-style doors going into that bathroom and have a single lock door. It's, not convenient, but it's functionable at this time. But ideally, that station would get done if the money supported it in the 2.7 million. So with that, we kind of hit all the highlights, I think, at the finance meeting, unless there's any other questions for myself or David or Robert.
Sorry about that. Ms. Stevenson.
Thank you. I just have one question. On the original letter, the Wisconsin Rapids Fire Department, that was dated May 28th of 2021, it talks about the last paragraph. I would like to point out the initial conceptual designs, including remodeling the bathroom in the second floor dorms at Fire Station number 2. And it kind of gives an estimate of that $137,840. But then in the summary that I know we had just emailed or got emailed last night, it said, after considering multiple options, they addressed all goals at Station 1 while addressing gender equality. And then there was a question about, on the third page, it is necessary, it would be recommended to design and draw plans for the work on the Station 2 as an alternate bid. Then on the day, the city would know what the cost would be and determine whether to move forward with Station 2 bathroom renovations, which you kind of just discussed. But I guess I was just kind of confused because it's saying that there was a bid out for Station number 2, because according to the letter, May 28th, it kind of talks that there was. So I guess I'm just kind of confused.
In the original concept plans, I'll have Robert talk on this a little bit, but in that original conceptual plans back in probably 2019, that was the estimate of the bathroom at Station 2 was $137,840. I could have Robert talk on what the alternate bid would entail and why it probably could stay in there.
I'm Robert Krzyzewski. I'm the Director of Emergency Services for Wendell and Five Bugles Design. Basically, what we're planning on doing is we're going to still bid. Right now, in the terms of where we are in this project, we're at about 40% done. So, Dave and Myron and them, they took that estimate, or they took those set of drawings and did an estimate, right? And that's where this number came up. Now, what we're going to do for the next month here is finish these drawings up, and then there'll be a portion of that bid that is an alternate bid that basically when we get that bid in and say Station 1 comes in cheaper, then at that time the council can decide, hey, the bids came in great. We've got enough money here now. We can throw Station 2 in there because we've got the plans and we've got the drawings and it was bid already. There's a sense of scale when you attach Station 2 to Station 1. Station 1's a great, nice sized project. So you'd like to think you're getting your bang for your buck on the alternate, because they're there, not on site, but it's the same contractor, same group, so you're attaching it to that economy of scale. So really, the recommendation and the email that was sent the other day was basically, it's not out yet. We're going to get a separate bid for it, and then we're going to discuss it when all the bids come in for the entire project, and hopefully we're under that 2.7, and then you can do Station 2 at the same time.
Mr. Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's one number on this estimate that really is kind of jumping off the page for me, and that is the winter conditions temporary heat enclosure estimate of $15,000. Now, this project, we're talking about groundbreaking early October. So, there's a lot of concrete, there's a lot of block, there's a lot of brick and mortar. Once temperatures get down below 50 degrees, you're having to supply supplemental heat for all those phases. And I know from experience that number can get pretty costly. So is there anybody that can kind of speak to that number and if you really think that's going to be enough to get the job done?
I appreciate it, Austin. I fully understand that concern, and we go through that every year as well. So,
The intent was based on preliminary conversations on when we can continue the design and get it completed, that we would bid this out in late August, early September, get a early start permit on the foundations through the state approval process, so that hopefully we can get the structure up and enclosed prior to substantial winter impacts. So the intent then would be to get the addition portion done first and have that done sometime in early next year, and then have the fire station occupy that addition, and then take over and do the renovation portion and wrap up next summer. So the hope is that if we can continue the timeline, and that's why Robbie and the team are continuing design as we, kind of as we speak, to keep this process rolling, that we could still break ground early and get the foundations, get the masonry up, the heated stuff, get up and closed. So the 15,000 would include some temporary partitions in the windows, and then basically heater rentals, and then we would use the gas service, the existing gas service for the fuel service for the heat. So a lot of times that number can grow quite a bit when you're using propane or things like that, which you're probably aware of. So we feel comfortable with it based on the current timeline, but you're correct. If things were kind of delayed at all, we may run into issues there, but that's not the intent right now.
You didn't mention snow removal. Is that somewhere else in the estimate, or are you guys not including that in the estimate?
Snow removal would be a part of that. We don't anticipate, based on where we would be at in the project, having to do a substantial amount of snow removal. Just because hopefully, again, we would try and get the roof up and stuff. But if Mother Nature takes its toll on us here earlier than normal, then we would figure that out. But I think we would be covered with that for now, based on the current schedule, I guess.
Thank you. Mr. Zacher.
Thank you. Due to the fact that we're in the craziest construction cost boom, I guess, since I've been alive, and it started a year ago, and it's sounds like things are starting to shift a little bit back. Are you able to adjust somewhat, or is it adjusted according to daily numbers on the materials, or could we wait a little while and it would come down quite substantially compared to what it is right now?
Appreciate the question again. Yeah, it's crazy times right now, so I appreciate everybody recognizing that. The thought right now is we've reached out to the subcontractor community, so we've captured those. We know that the wood market is completely ridiculous right now. I mean, it's up like 150% or something from fall. So we did reach out to 2 different truss manufacturers and got confirmation of the pricing for that aspect of it. The nice thing is masonry and concrete hasn't really seen any of the volatility that the rest of the market has. And we don't have a substantial amount of steel on this project as it's currently designed. So we're not seeing the steel impacts as well. So really it was down to the lumber. So that's why it makes up a portion of the overage, but not a substantial portion of the overage. So waiting wouldn't necessarily behoove anything in the process right now. And again, the other aspect that we kind of mentioned in the report is lead times. And based on what we're seeing on the current constructability and design, we don't have any concerns when it comes to lead time on issues. So I think you're going to not really save any money by waiting, because you're going to also see labor increases. There's a potential of additional winter if you're looking at breaking ground in winter. If you would then hold off until spring, aside from Chief's concerns with delaying the project longer, you would also run into labor rate increases next summer. So there's a risk there. I don't know that the reward is worth the risk, in my opinion.
Thank you. Ms. Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. No one knows what the future holds. They've been planning this 2019. A lot of work has been going into this. They provided good updates with everything. With the cost of materials and everything increasing, it's kind of out of our control. I don't feel that we should wait, and I would like to make a motion to approve the updated cost estimate for Fire Station 1. Thank you.
Sounds good. We have a motion by Evenson. And there, I did it. It's Evanson. I've known that for a long time. And seconded by Mr. Catna. Thank you for the correction. Mr. Rayon.
I was going to second it.
Oh,
I hit the wrong one.
so a motion and a second to approve the updated cost estimates for Station 1. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. That motion carried, 7 ayes with 1 nay. On item number 10, which is consider initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in the amount not to exceed $1,845,000 for street improvement projects. Tim?
Sure. This would be the funds that we approved in the 2021 budget for street construction projects. Those projects are detailed on the attachment in the finance packet. Phil Costin from Ellers is here. He's our financial advisor on the issuance of the bonds. And basically, we have two resolutions here for bonding. One is the 1.8 million that we're going to consider now, and then the next one is the 2.7 for what we just approved for the fire station renovation. And I'll let Phil kind of go over his pre-sale report that I handed out earlier this evening.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Phil Costin with Ellers. Nice to be back with you. I want to take you through the process a little bit. Just I know we have a few new members on the city council, and I think it'd be helpful for you to understand the process we take the city through when we issue debt. You made my life a little bit easier, I think, with that last vote. We would have been kind of moving things around on the fly a little bit if it would have been a different vote on the fire station project. Typically, the city will be in the market spring, late spring, early summer, so you're maybe a little bit later than normal when you issue capital, when you issue debt for your capital financing projects. The delay here a little bit was the fire station project. We're trying to get a firm number before bringing this to your attention. You have 4 resolutions that are in your packet that all tie back to this debt issue, and I'll talk about each one of those in a little bit of detail. And then Tim provided a pre-sale report that we sent. I'm going to speak to the pre-sale report a little bit because we're not here just to finance the project. We want you to understand the impact of financing projects. And not just short-term, but long-term. And then I want to give you a little bit of an update on what's happening in the bond market, which we still kind of linger right now around the historic lows that we've seen now for quite some time. So while there's costs that have gone up for projects, we're seeing very low interest rates that help offset some of those costs when we finance projects. As Tim indicated, what we are doing here is bringing together the street projects that were in your capital plan, and we're bringing that with the fire station project, and it's all going to be one debt financing. We do that for efficiency. When we started talking about the fire station project, knowing that the city's practice for road projects has been to issue debt over 10 years. Very conservative approach to financing capital that you're financing it typically over 10 years. In the state of Wisconsin, you can go out 20 years for general obligation debt. The city's practice has always been, when it's not tied to like a tax increment district, for normal capital projects, it's been 10 years. You'll notice here that we are looking at a bond issue that is 15 years. And the reason being, the road projects will be 10 years as typical, but we've stretched out the term of the fire station financing to 15 years. And the reason, again, is when we get to that tax impact analysis, what's the impact of undertaking capital expenditures? We started talking about different options, 10-year option for everything, a 15-year option, and a 20-year option. And we kind of narrowed in on this hybrid 10-year for roads like you've typically done, and then stretching out the 2.7 million fire station project for 15 years. So procedurally, if you give us authorization tonight, what does that mean? That just kind of sets in motion our process to finance the project. So there's three things that'll happen pretty quickly after that. One, we'll start preparing what's called an official statement. It's like a prospectus on the city that you'll all get a copy of, but we use that to sell the bonds in the secondary market, to solicit bids from different banks and underwriters around the state and Midwest and nationally. So that'll set in motion the preparation of that offering document. Second, we'll be in contact with Moody's Investor Service. We already have been, just in case this proceeds, because the city is rated, and you'll have to go through a rating process. Tim loves these meetings. So we have a call with Moody's. They have an analyst. I'll be on the call. Their finance director will be on the call. The mayor, if he wants to, could be on the call. We tend to go through everything financial and what's happening in the local economy with Moody's for about an hour. You'll get a rating. Affirmation is what we've been seeing a great deal of, meaning they affirm the rating. Under COVID, Wisconsin hasn't been hit as hard as some states when it comes to kind of impact of financials for municipalities due to COVID. So we'll go through the rating. And then on the sale day, which will be what we targeted is July 21st, the day after your council meeting, we'll actually hold a sale. And it's a public sale, meaning we take bids from known underwriters, banks that want to bid. They'll line up, they'll set up in the morning, they'll submit bids. We would expect somewhere between 4 and 7 bids typically. We know all the players for the most part. We sell debt for municipalities every week in our office. We had a bond sale today for another community. So we kind of know who's out there, and then we'll bring those results back to you with the final results of the sale process. So there's a number of steps here that need to happen if you give us, again, authorization to proceed with the financing. So in this pre-sale report, and I'm not going to read this to you, so it does detail all the kind of financial and regulatory items that we need to go through and document before we can issue debt. And so we talk about, what type of debt issue it's going to be, what the purposes are, again, streets and the fire station project. The authority, what's the authority for the municipality to be able to issue the debt? How much borrowing capacity do you have? Do you have enough? That's under authority on page number 1. You can see you still, after this issue, would have almost 30 million of borrowing capacity, meaning you have additional capacity to take on other projects. We talk about the rating, bond qualifications, method of sale, which I just went through. We advocate strongly for doing competitive bond sales, and that's what we would be doing here. In this case, we're doing a little different approach than we have with the city, but where we're using a great deal around the state. It's called a parameter sale. And the parameter sale, in this case, on the resolution you have in front of you tonight, calls for a parameter sale. What that says is if certain parameters that are laid out in the resolution are met on that sale day, again, July 21st, on that sale date, then it is essentially a signature either by the mayor or your finance director. They've been designated. You still get all the same information. We'll provide the same sale day information to you. We're using that approach because this time of year, there's so many communities selling in the marketplace that Mondays and Tuesdays are loaded. I can't even tell you how many communities are out issuing and or refinancing debt. So we've moved the sale to a Wednesday to help with hopefully generating more bidders, more interest, and then also less competition. So that's why we're looking at the parameter sale in this case. I mentioned that we tend to go through and really look at kind of the financial implications of doing debt issuance. On page 6 of that pre-sale report. That's the debt issue. That's how we got to the $4,615,000. You see, not knowing what was going to happen with the fire station, we had an option 1 and an option 2. Option 1 pulled out the fire station. Option 2 kept it in. So we're working off of option 2, which is the street projects, the fire building, and the $4,615,000. On the following page, I hope you like numbers. There's a lot of numbers there. But what we're boiling this down to is, where are you today from a debt levy amount, and where will you be after this debt issue for a debt levy amount? And what that tells you is what's going to happen with your levy as it pertains to existing and this issue, existing debt and this issue, and then what capacity do you have in the future to take on other projects. So what you'll notice in here, and there's a lot of numbers here, if you go to the second column from the right, and you look at where you were in 2021 and where you're projected in 22, you'll see that there's an increase, and that increase is a reflection of this debt issue that's being undertaken, along with previous debt issues, the aquatic center and some other projects that you financed over the years. But what you see after that is that you have a dropping mill rate for levy, okay? And that's important because it enables you then to take on future projects down the road without hopefully seeing a significant spike in the tax rate for debt. Now, this is just the levy for debt that we're looking at. So while this is a lot to absorb tonight, this is the kind of information that we're sharing back and forth with your staff to make sure they're comfortable with what's been structured and how this has been put together in this case. We have a breakout on page 8, which shows the breakout between the street project financing and how that's being financed, the amortization schedule versus the fire station. Again, 10 years for the streets, 15 years for the fire station. We have a chart on page 9 showing kind of where you are with your debt, and you do have a debt policy, and where you fit within your debt policy to make sure that you don't bump up against your debt policy. You're still well underneath your debt policy. The green is your existing, the policy is red, and what's allowed is in the blue column that you see. Finally, the very last page of this document that I have for you tonight is a 3-year bond chart, and it kind of gives you a feel for what's happening in the bond market. And while we've seen slight fluctuations over the last year, it hasn't moved a great deal. In today, if you're issuing debt today, we would expect to see this 15-year issue be at 2% or less interest on this issue. And so we'll see what happens in the next month. If you give us authorization to proceed, then we will come back again with final results. In regards to the 4 resolutions that you have in front of you, they all kind of pertain to this one issue, and I want to just briefly mention what they all are and why they are separated out. They're separated out because you have 2 different purposes. So the first 2 resolutions, as Tim alluded to, one is for the street projects, the $1,845,000, that's the street projects. The $2,270,000 is for the fire station project. The third resolution is a resolution that authorizes a notice to the electors, which is a requirement anytime you issue bonds in Wisconsin, that you have to send a notice out to the electors indicating that you are issuing debt. And there is a petition period tied to that. And then the fourth brings these back together, and it's a resolution establishing the parameters for the sale of not to exceed the $4,615,000 general obligation corporate purpose bonds 2021A. So that's the full amount of the debt issue that you're giving us authorization to proceed with. So that's kind of a quick summary of the process to go through the debt financing, what we're financing, the timing behind it, and then the resolutions that you have in front of you tonight. Be happy to answer any questions on process, timing, methodology, anything that you have.
Mr. Rayo? Did you have a question?
The only, the question would be, I guess, is when we get around to approving this, can we act on these all at once, or do we have to do these all
Separately, please.
separately? Okay. Thank
Anybody have any questions for Phil? Or Tim? So, seeing none, our first item that we are addressing is the resolution authorizing general obligation bonds not to exceed $1,845,000 for the street improvement project. We have a motion by Mr. Rayom to approve that resolution. Is seconded by Mr. Austin. Is there any further discussion on that or any questions? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. That motion carried 8 ayes, 0 nays. We'll move on to item 11, to consider an initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in the amount not to exceed $2,770,000 for the construction of an engine houses. So we have a motion by Mr. Rayom to approve that resolution. And seconded by Mr. Zacher. Is there any questions or discussion regarding that resolution? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. That motion carried 8 ayes, 0 nays. Moving on to item number 12 is to consider a resolution directing publication of notice to the electors relating to the bond issuance. A motion by Mr. Rayom, seconded by Ms. Evanson. Thank you. I think this is a resolution I've had experience with, Tim. Any further discussions or comments? Please cast your ballots. That motion carried 8 ayes and 0 nays. We'll move on to item 13 is to consider a resolution establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $4,615,000 general obligation corporate purpose bonds series 2021A. Questions, comments, wishes? I have a motion by Mr. Rayom to approve that resolution, and that's seconded by Mr. Austin. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. And that motion carried 8 ayes and 0 nays.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Phil. Thank you, Phil. All right, moving on to item 14 is to consider the adoption and action of the Plan Commission at the meeting held on June 7th. All right, everybody please relax. It's a long one, Mr. Kearns. The Plan Commission met at 4 p.m. on June 7th in the council chambers. A list of those in attendance are on file in the clerk's office. The meeting was called to order at 4:01 p.m. Item 1 was approval of the reports from the May 3rd, 2021 Plan Commission meeting. That motion by Feith to approve the reports from the May 3rd, 2021 Plan Commission meeting, and that was seconded by Davin. That motion carried 6 ayes, 0 nays. Item 2 is Plan -21-0492 Matthew Graff, a request for certified survey map approval to create 2 lots at 2620 Gaynor Avenue, parcel ID 3404367. Motion by Burkhart to approve that request for a certified survey map approval to create the 2 lots at 2620 Gaynor Avenue, parcel ID 3404367. That was seconded by Goudreau. That motion carried 6 ayes, 0 nays. Item 3 is Plan 21-0522 City of Wisconsin Rapids. Request for a certified survey map approval for 1 lot and to dedicate it as a right-of-way at the end of Grove Avenue, east of 16th Street South, parcel ID 3414800. Motion by Austin to approve the request for the certified survey map, approval for that one lot, and to dedicate it as right-of-way at the end of Grove, east of 16th Street South. That was seconded by Davin. That motion carried, 6 ayes, 0 nays. Item 4, Plan -21-0507, Wisconsin State Firefighters Memorial. A request for a site plan approval to construct a shed within Ben Hansen Park, 2031 2nd Avenue South, parcel ID 3404746. Commissioner Feith lost video connection to the meeting. Motion by Blazer to approve the request to construct a shed within Ben Hansen Park, 2031 2nd Avenue South, subject to the following conditions. Applicable zoning requirements, including setbacks, shall be met. Applicable, can't use that word anymore, Kyle. Permits through the city shall be obtained. C is community development staff shall have the authority to approve minor modifications to the plan. That was seconded by Goudreau. Motion carried, 5 ayes, 0 nays. Commissioner Feith rejoined the meeting virtually. Item 5 is Plan 21-0436, brings cycling and fitness. Request for a sign exception to reduce the setback for an existing non-conforming sign and install the electronic message center at 1630 and 1710 2nd Street South, parcel IDs 3411717 and 3411718. Motion by Dobbin to approve the request for the sign exception to reduce the setbacks for the existing non-conforming sign and install electronic message center at 1630 and 1710 8th Street South seconded by Feith. Electronic message center setbacks, scrolling, blinking, timing, and potential distraction were discussed by commission members, staff, Dan Drexler of Stratford Sign Company, and Carissa Lager of MediaWorks. Further conversations took place to clarify the details of the sign and how it regulated under the current sign code and proposed code. Dobbin and Feith withdrew their original motions to approve the request for a sign exception to reduce the setback for the existing non-conforming sign and install electronic message center at 1630 and 1710 8th Street South. There was then a motion by Dobbin to approve the request for the sign exception to reduce the setback for the existing non-conforming sign and install an electronic message center at 1630 and 1710 8th Street South, subject to the following conditions. A, the electronic message center sign shall maintain a clearance of 10 feet above grade of the adjacent right-of-way. B is the exception shall not permit the setback from the property line less than 3.75 feet. C is the applicant shall obtain all necessary sign and building permits through the Community Development Department. B, all applicable building and zoning standards shall be met regarding the proposed signage. E is the electronic message display must be equipped with technology for automatically dimming based upon ambient light conditions and controls that the sign owner can use to program lighting levels to comply with lighting standards in this section. F is except for time and temperature display, the message shall remain static at least 5 seconds before the next message appears. G is a part of the message shall give the appearance of G is no part of the message shall give the appearance of movement. H is there shall be no animated traveling, scrolling, or flashing transitions. I is light level shall not exceed 0.3 foot candles over ambient light conditions when measured at a specified distance in the table below, which if you're interested, we can provide you with a copy of that information, over the ambient light conditions at the property boundary line of the residential property, or 0.2 foot candles over ambient light conditions for the property boundary line, the commercial industrial property, institutional or property. J is the message on the electronic message display shall only relate to the premise on which it is located except for a public service announcements. K is exception to the general commercial B2 district. The electronic message display shall be turned off by 11 p.m. each day or 1 hour after the close of the business on the premise, whichever is later, and shall remain off until 5 a.m. the following day. And L is electronic message message displayed shall be located on no more than one sign per road frontage. That motion was seconded by Feith, and it carried 6 ayes, 0 nays, and we spoke a long time about electronic messaging. Item 6 is Plan -21-0508 Connexus Credit Union's request for a site plan review and architectural review to construct a new facade and perform other improvements at 1930 A Street South. At parcel ID is 3411731. Motion by Davin to approve the request for site plan review and architectural review to construct a new facade and perform other improvements at 1930 A Street South, subject to the following conditions. A is the impervious surface ratio shall not be increased on the site. B is the landscaping plan shall be submitted for review and approval by the Community Development Department. C is cutoff lighting fixtures be used for the east elevation facade. D is light from business shall not exceed 2/10 foot candles at the neighboring commercial property line. E is applicable permits through the city shall be obtained. F is community development. Staff shall have the authority to approve minor modifications to that plan. That motion was seconded by Goudreau, and it passed 6 ayes, 0 nays. Shane Burkhart left the meeting. Item 7, Plan -21-0938 Community Development. Public hearing on the action on a request to replace Chapter 46 sign code of the municipal code with a new sign code. Public hearing was open at 4:46 p.m. Speaking in favor was Anita from the U.S. Veterans Administration, spoke in favor of the sign variance process. Speaking against was business owner J.R. Seward. Sharon Johnson of CLT Signs, Dean Ramsden at 3021 8th Street South. Mr. Seward felt that the new sign code was overreaching and had too great of an unintended impact on local businesses. He referenced various parts of that new sign code, but noted his primary concern was pertaining to electronic message center movement, fading, and timing. Sharon Johnson also commented on sign display transitions, awning, window graphics, and provided examples of sign displays. Business owner Dean Ramsden expressed concern over concerns regarding costs for businesses and how too many restrictions may be burdensome. The public hearing was then closed at 5:10 p.m. Commission members continued discussion and advised staff to bring back a finalized document addressing the sign variation process, electronic messaging center changes, window graphic changes, and other minor changes. That motion by Goudreau to postpone approval of Plan 21-0938 in order to finalize the sign code, seconded by Austin. That motion carried 5 ayes, 0 nays. Item 8 is adjournment. Motion by Blazer to adjourn, seconded by Austin. That carried 5 ayes, 0 nays, and the meeting adjourned at 5:35 p.m. And I submit this for your consideration.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Veneman, seconded by Zacher. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. That motion carried 8 ayes, 0 nays. Item number 15 is consider adoption action of the standing committees of the Common Council. Item A is Finance and Property Committee meeting held June 1st. Mr. Rayon.
Thank you, Your Honor. Finance and Property Committee met at 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday, June 1st, 2021. in the council chambers at City Hall. All committee members were present. The meeting was live on Wisconsin Rapids Community Media Spectrum Channel 985 and Solaris Channel 3, online at www.wr-cm.org or via WRCM's Roku app, and was streamed live on the City of Wisconsin Rapids Facebook page. All members of the Finance and Property Committee were present. Also in attendance were Alderperson Veneman, Mayor Blazer, Chief Young, Deputy Chief Eckes, Kyle Kearns, Sue Schell, Jennifer Gossick, and Tim DeSorcy. A list of others in attendance is on file in the clerk's office. Item 1 was call the meeting to order. Chairperson Rayom called the meeting to order at 4:35. Item 2, update from the Wisconsin Rapids Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. The Wisconsin Rapids Area Convention and Visitors Bureau requested that the update be presented at the July 2021 Finance and Property Committee meeting. No action was taken. Item 3, consider for approval a taxi cab license renewal application from Randy Wiles for Gotta Go Taxi LLC. It was moved by Rayom, seconded by Catnaugh, to approve the taxi cab license renewal application from Randy Wiles for Gotta Go Taxi LLC. The motion carried. Item 4, consider a temporary Class B beer and Class B wine license for Assumption Athletic Association for the premises located at 445 Chestnut Street for an Assumption Golf Course Scramble event held on July 16th, 2021. It's moved by Rayom, seconded by Catnaugh, to approve a temporary Class B beer and Class B wine license for Assumption Athletic Association for the premises located at 445 Chestnut Street for an Assumption Golf Scramble event to be held on July 16th, 2021. That motion carried. Item 5, consider request from CNC Steckbauer LLC, DBA Whiskey Rapids Saloon, Callie Sailor Steckbauer, agent for a Class B beer license and Class B liquor license premises extension to include the entire second floor and within the fenced-in outdoor area for the premises located at 150 2nd Street North. It was moved by Catnaugh, seconded by Bemke, to approve the Class B beer license and Class B liquor license premises extension from CNC Steckbauer LLC, DBA Whiskey Rapids Saloon, Kelly Sailor Steckbauer, agent, to include entire second floor and within the fenced-in outdoor area for the premises located at 150 2nd Street North. That motion carried. Item 6, consider request from Johnny's LLC, DBA Johnny's Bar, Josh Vetrone, agent, to temporarily extend the alcohol license premises for the premises located at 2610 8th Street South to include an outdoor area as shown on the attached map on Friday, July 16th and Saturday, July 17th, 2021, from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. and for a noise variance for a DJ until midnight on both nights. Is moved by Rayom, seconded by Bemke, to approve with a request from Johnny's LLC, DBA Johnny's Bar, Josh Vetrone, agent, to temporarily extend the alcohol license premises for the premises located at 2610 8th Street South to include an outdoor area as shown on the attached map on Friday, July 16th and Saturday, July 17th from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m. and for a noise variance for a DJ until midnight on both nights. That motion carried. Item 7, consider approval of the 2021-2022 Class A liquor, Class A beer, Class B liquor, Class B beer, and Class C wine alcohol licenses. Consider sending notices of non-renewal or denial for those licenses who are not qualified to hold a license because of delinquencies or other disqualifications. It is moved by Rayom, seconded by Catnaugh, to approve the 2021-2022 Class A liquor, Class A beer, Class B liquor, Class B beer, and Class C wine alcohol licenses, and send notices of non-renewal for those licenses that are not qualified to hold a license due to delinquencies or other disqualifications, and that motion carried. Item 8, consider closing the following streets and suspending the open container ordinance for these streets and adjoining sidewalks for the city's 2021 4th of July event from 3 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, July 4th, or the July 4th fireworks rain date. Second Street from East Jackson Street to Mead Street, Mead, Locust, Witter, Pine, Walnut, Maple, and Birch Streets from Second Street South to Third Street South. Oak Street from Second Street North to Third Street North. First Street North from East Jackson Street to Second Street North. Grand Avenue from Third Street to Third Avenue. First Avenue South from West Grand Avenue to Chase Street. Johnson and Goggins Street from First Avenue South to Third Avenue South. Second Avenue South from West Grand Avenue to Johnson Street. As moved by Capna, seconded by Bemke, to approve the closing of streets in suspension of the open container ordinance on those streets and adjoining sidewalks for the city's 2021 4th of July event from 3 p.m. to 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, July 4th, 2021, for the July 4th fireworks rain date. Motion carried. Item 9, consider the selection of a contractor for Phase 1 fabrication and install of wayfinding signage. It's moved by Rayom, seconded by Bemke to approve the selection of Graphic House for the Phase 1 fabrication and installation of wayfinding signage at a cost of $81,499. That motion carried. Item 10, review and consider for approval an updated cost estimate for the Fire Station Number 1 renovation. It's moved by Catna, seconded by Rayom, to approve the updated cost estimate for the Fire Station Number 1 renovation in the amount of $2,699,018. That's attachment 1, the motion carried. Review the 2020, item 11, review the 2021 debt issue amount and timeline. Is moved by Catna, seconded by Bemke, to approve the 2021 debt issue amount. That's attachment 2, and that motion carried. Item 12 was to review and consider for approval of 2021 budget amendment number 2. Motion by Rayom, seconded by Catna, to approve the 2021 budget amendment number 2, and that was attachment 3. That motion carried. Item 13 was audit of bills. It was moved by Bemke, seconded by Rayom, to approve check number 8064 to 8828. That motion carried. Number 14, in open session, the committee will vote to go into closed session under section 19.85, parent 1, parent G of the Wisconsin statutes, which reads, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body was rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is likely to become involved. And under section 19.85, parent 1, parent E, Wisconsin statutes, which reads, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing in public funds, or the conducting other specified business whenever competitive bargaining reasons require a closed session. A, in closed session, the committee will confer with legal counsel regarding litigation the city is involved in, and will also discuss negotiations regarding a proposed settlement of the litigation. B, the committee may adjourn in closed session or may return to open session. If the committee returns to open session, the committee may take action on approving a proposed settlement agreement to settle the litigation. It was moved by Bemke, seconded by Catna, to go into closed session. Roll call vote was in the affirmative. The committee adjourned in closed session and no action was taken in open session. Item 15 was to adjourn. The committee adjourned in closed session at 6:22 p.m. And with that, Your Honor, I move for adoption of the report.
Thank you, Mr. Rayom. We have a second by Mr. Catna. And I believe, Ms. Evanston, do you have a question?
I do. Number 9, consider the selection of contractor for Phase 1 fabrication install of wayfinding signage. You approved the Graphic House, and I believe Stratford Signs was like $6,300 cheaper, but the reason why we went with Graphic House is because of the grading scale, is that correct? And the familiarity with the city?
Carl's.
That's correct. The internal review committee did select Graphic House because they thought they had a stronger proposal.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? And also, did you want to go into closed session? Attorney Schill sent out an email saying that there wasn't an update or a resolution at this point, and hopefully for July, there will be something. And there's probably not a need to go into closed session unless you think there's a need. Okay. Sounds good. Seeing no other questions, please cast your ballots. That motion carried, 8 ayes, 0 nays. Item B is Public Works Committee held on June 1st, 2021. Mr. Kubaschak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public Works Committee met on Tuesday, June 1st, 2021 in the council chambers via remote video conferencing. Thad Kubaschak, Ryan Austin, Matt Zach were in attendance for committee members. Others attending are on file in the clerk's office. Item number 1 meeting was called to order at 6:30 p.m. Item number 2, transportation utility model update. Motion by Kubaschak, second by Austin, to direct staff to prepare a report to describe the financial and infrastructure impacts of scenario 1, plus funding adequate to implement an asphalt resurfacing program as described. Motion carried 3-0. Item number 3, review request by Alderperson Cadnow to reconsider the city's overnight parking ordinance. Motion by Kubaschak, second by Zachary, to direct staff to draft an amendment to the parking ordinance to include a provision for consideration of special exemptions to the alternate overnight parking ordinance, such as street reconstruction. Motion carried 3-0. Item number 4, review request by Alderperson Bemke to consider allowing ATVs on some city streets. Motion by Zachary, second by Kubaschak, to allow ATV, UTVs on some city streets. Motion failed 0-3. Item number 5, review request by property owner relating to sidewalk at 710 11th Avenue North. Motion by Austin, second by Zachary, to allow the removal of sidewalk at 710 11th Avenue North to be performed by and at the expense of the property owner. Motion carried 3-0. Item number 6, review request by property owner relating to sidewalk at 221 18th Avenue South. Motion by Austin, second by Zachary, to honor the property owner's request to reinstall sidewalk at 221 18th Avenue South at the property owner's expense. Motion carried 3-0. Item number 7, discuss potential design change and change order on West Jackson relating to minimizing contaminated soil removal costs. Motion by Kubaschak, second by Zachary, to approve the change order for hazardous material phase 2.5 boring, testing, and mapping on Jackson Street along the development of temporary traffic signal plans at the expressway intersection for a total not to exceed $40,500.00. Motion carried 3-0. Item number 8, discuss proposed change order for RECC rail extension. Motion to approve the change order to remove construction staking from the RECC rail extension design contract and to have city perform the construction staking internally. Motion carried 3-0. Item number 9, review of the Director of Public Works report. Director of Public Works report was reviewed. Item number 10, review referral list. The referral list was reviewed and amended. Item number 11, adjournment. Motion by Austin, second by Zachary, to adjourn. Motion carried at 3-0. Meeting was adjourned at 8:37 p.m. And with that, I'll make a motion for approval.
I have a motion by Kubaschak and second by Austin. Any further discussion or comments? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. That motion carried, 8 ayes, 0 nays. Item C is Public Works Committee meeting held on June 8th. Mr. Kubaschak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Public Works Committee met on Tuesday, June 8th, 2021 in the first floor conference room at City Hall and via video, remote video conferencing. Thad Kubaschak, Ryan Austin, and Matt Zach were in attendance for committee members. Others attending are on file in the clerk's office. Item number 1, the meeting was called to order at 5 p.m. Item number 2, transportation utility model discussion. Discuss and act on the development of the set of questions to submit to Ellers, the consulting firm, for possible answers by the June 15th regular council meeting. Questions were discussed and staff directed to develop answers with assistance from the city's consultant. Item number 3, item number 3, discuss the 8th Street South Storm Sewer Repair Project bidding and construction schedule. Motion by Kubiak, second by Austin, to authorize staff to preemptively award the contract for repairs to the 8th Street Storm Sewer to the lowest responsible bidder and report the results to the Common Council. Motion carried 3-0. Item number 4, adjournment. Motion by Zachary, second by Austin to adjourn. Motion carried 3-0. The meeting adjourned at 6:31 p.m. And with that, I'll make a motion for approval.
So a motion by Kubiak, second by Austin. Any further discussion or comments? Was there a low bidder for the street sewer project?
It is, I think what it is, and I see Mr. Terry reaching for the button, but what it is it's preemptively, we're given the authority to staff to make that decision for the lowest bidder because the bids are not going to be opened until June 30th. But time is of the essence with this project. It's just specifically this project, and the committee, as far as a clarification, the committee feels comfortable, at least with the 3-0 vote, of giving the authority, the council authority, to staff to make the decision to expedite it on the day that the bids are opened, if that makes sense.
Makes sense. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast. Oh, sorry, Mr. Rayo.
Last second one.
You may.
Joe, do you know what time the bids would be open that day? If anybody wants to come.
I can get that notice out. I believe it's noon on
Okay.
the 30th.
Could you get it to us if anybody wants to drop in when you're going to do that?
Yes, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rayo. Seeing nothing, please cast your ballots. That motion carried 8 ayes, 0 nays. On to item D, Human Resource Committee meeting held on June 2nd. Mr. Bemke.
Thank you, Mayor. Meeting of the Human Resource Committee was held on Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021 at 5 o'clock p.m. via remote video conferencing from the first floor conference room. Members present were Chairman Bemke, Alderperson Evenson, Alderperson Veneman was excused. Also present were Attorney Schill, Alderperson Rayom, City Clerk Jennifer Gossick, Kelly Warrington, and Ryan Hartman. Meeting was called to order. Number 2, discuss and consider for approval the review of the residency policy as presented. Motion by Bemke, second by Evenson to approve the revisions of the residency city policy as presented. Motion carried 2-0. Item 3, Ryan gave an update on our wage study. There was a discussion and no action was taken. Item 4, there was a motion by Evenson, second by Bemke to adjourn. Motion carried 2-0, and the meeting adjourned at 5:05 p.m. And with that, I would make a motion to approve the minutes of the HR committee meeting.
So a motion by Bemke, seconded by Veneman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Did you break it? There you go. That motion carried 8 ayes and 0 nays. Move on to item E, Human Resource Committee meeting held on June 15th.
Thank you, Mayor. HR committee met Tuesday, June 15th. The meeting was called to order at 5:08 p.m. We discussed, in item number 2 was to discuss and consider for approval of revising the community development specialist position to a community development specialist associate planner position. Approve the job description and compensation for the revised position. There was a motion by Bemke, second by Veneman. Motion carried 3-0. Item 3 was for adjournment. Motion by Veneman, second by Evenson. Motion carried 3-0. Meeting adjourned at 5:10 p.m. And with that, I would ask that this be approved.
We have a motion by Bemke, second by Veneman. Any further discussion? Other than it's pronounced Evanson? Any other further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. We'll get it eventually.
I don't.
We can retrain an old dog.
No, you can't. You know better.
That motion carried 8 ayes, 0 nays. Item number 16, reports of other committees, commission, boards, or departmental reports. Any questions, comments? What are your wishes? Ms. Evanson? Oh, now I'm doing it.
We can train you.
I just have one question on number 16E. The Park and Recreation Commission held May 10th and June 1st. On the minutes from May 10th, and I know, Mayor, we have the, the request to rename the Aquatic Center. And I just have a general question. I know when I drove by there on A Street, on A Street it says Wisconsin Rapids Aquatic and Recreational Park. On Chestnut Street where you're pulling in, it says the same thing. And then on the actual building, the entry building, it says Wisconsin Rapids Recreational Complex. And from what I remember reading in the prior minutes is that complex was the issue with that. But I guess, I know you guys are in initial stages, but I was just wondering what signs we're planning on being changed? How much would they cost and how will they be paid for? I just had a,
I don't think there's been any discussion on changing any signage.
okay.
I don't think that's
Just
been
renaming,
for me, it's more about, the brand. Oof, wow, hold on.
yep,
For me, it's about branding the aquatic center with whether it be apparel, T-shirts. At one point there was going to be a naming option to be able to purchase that naming option, and I guess since the taxpayers paid $10 million, since nobody wanted to come forward and do any naming, I thought that would be the route to go then, to see about the taxpayers coming up with a name for the aquatics part of it. But as for changing any signage, that's never been mentioned. You're welcome. Any other discussions or questions?
I'll make a motion to have these placed on file in the clerk's office.
We have a motion by Kubiszak, seconded by Evanson. Any further discussions? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Maybe need a new battery. Can you vote for him? Can you vote for him? All right, that motion carried 8 ayes, 0 nays. Is there any referrals to any committees? Did you receive nothing? Sounds good. There are none. We're not going into closed session, so we're at the last item of the night, is item 19 for adjournment. We have a motion by Rayom, seconded by Zacher. Well, Mr. Bemke?
A question before we adjourn, if you don't mind.
Nope, go ahead.
With that, this being could maybe somebody explain what the process is going to be for filling Thad's vacant committee responsibilities and whatever else he had?
I think that will probably be determined by, go ahead, Michelle.
Right, I would say that the mayor would have the prerogative to perhaps switch some committee appointments, I guess, depending on how who the person was, and then once the committees are set, then obviously the Public Works Committee would more than likely meet to choose a chair, and then the council president one would be after you have chosen the person to fill the vacancy. Then that would probably, we put that on the agenda to choose a council president.
Mr. Kubaschak, are you a part of any other subcommittees or anything that we need to remember?
By default, the chairperson of the Public Works Committee is on the Sewer Commission, but so that isn't, that just kind of goes along with it. But I think that I'm a backup for the Ethics Committee.
I think so, yeah.
And that should be it.
Okay, Sherry?
I just have a general question, and Sue, slap me if I'm not bringing this up at the right time, but as far as the transportation utility, I know it needs to move, I mean, decision needs to be made. When will that, I was assuming that we were talking about that tonight, I'm sorry, but.
Yeah, so it should be, I would think, the next Public Works Committee meeting. It may be dependent on how, and Joe, jump in if you want, maybe a committee of the whole at the same time to get everybody there, and so that recommendation can go to, so the whole body would be involved in that recommendation to council for July, if that's ends up happening at the next Public Works Committee meeting.
Well, and I can certainly ask Council President Kubaschak in the interim if there's an interest in scheduling a special committee of the whole, given the list of questions. And you'll notice in some of those questions, the responses are a little bit different than what staff had answered some of you individually. And that was a result of discussions between staff and our consultants. So I'm sure there's plenty more questions and some follow-up. As Alderperson Evanson mentioned, time is of the essence, at least for not necessarily to fine-tune the details, but just the general scope, in order for staff to be able to move forward if there's a desire to do so for ordinance language and policy language. So I think it would certainly be appropriate if the council was interested in having a committee of the whole, perhaps sooner than the normally scheduled Public Works meeting, and then follow up at that meeting with, at Public Works with any other details or further questions.
I'm not opposed to doing that. I'm going to be hit or miss in the next 3 weeks here by virtue of my new assignment. But again, so what I can do is have a referral specifically to the clerk's office. Jennifer, if you want to query the rest of the council, send out an email when people are potentially available for that. And if I can't make it, I can't make it type of a thing. But I'm not worried about that one way or the other. I guess as long as we have enough for quorum, or if that is the case where for quorum purposes, we would call a special Public Works Committee meeting, because then we would technically only need 2 committee members versus trying to require a quorum of the committee of the whole. So then the meeting can actually occur at that time. But regardless, absolutely, whatever we got to do. So Jennifer, if you want to go ahead and do that whenever you got time. It doesn't have to be now type of thing. But yeah, if the clerk's office would do that, wonderful. Thank you.
Mr. Zacher. Oh, that's true.
We don't want to talk now?
Yeah, I guess, do you have a general question that can be asked later on, or is it okay, sounds good. So we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Please cast your ballots. Motion carried, 8 ayes, 0 nays.
Goodbye.